Welcome back to another episode of Fast Casual Nation. I'm your host today. My name is Paul Barron. And welcome to our podcast and also kind of our video version. If you guys are checking this out on YouTube, thanks for, of course, tuning in. If you are on all the podcast channels, again, thanks for a great year for Fast Casual Nation. This was one of our biggest years in terms of gaining subscribers. And really what we try to do here on Fast Casual Nation is bring you very interesting concepts, strategies, and even technologies and suppliers that serve the fast casual industry. No different today. Today we're going to be talking about diversification, how to basically utilize multiple service models, multiple strategies for your fast casual business, and none other than Jeni's. And I can't wait to find out a little bit more about Jeni's with John. And John Lowe is the CEO. Great to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so Jeni's is kind of a bit of a cult icon. I come from Austin, where Amy's, is. I'd love to compare those two one day. I hear it's a pretty tough taste profile between the two ice creams. I haven't had Jeni's yet, but I can't wait to try it for sure, John. Tell me a little bit about the brand, kind of how you got involved with it, and kind of what the current state of your concept is.
Sure. Thank you for having us. Jeni Britton Bauer started making ice cream back in 1996 when she mixed the essential oil of cayenne with a store-bought chocolate ice cream, and said she immediately knew she was going to spend the rest of her life around ice cream. She put herself through the Penn State ice cream school and immediately started trying to figure out how to get into business. She was at heart an artist. She had spent time in a French patisserie, and she really brought a chef's focus on quality and an artist's creativity to what had always been a pretty boring commodity product. I met her when she was just getting out of her first business called Scream. It had folded for all the reasons that tiny little businesses fold. It was a small booth at the Columbus North Market, the famous public market in downtown Columbus. And I met her, and she was constantly trying to figure out how to get back into it. And she was in the midst of falling in love with her husband, future husband, Charlie Bauer. And Charlie bought an Italian tabletop ice cream machine for $1,200. I watched him scrape together the money over several months and he bought it and stored it in my apartment, and said to her at some point, as he gave it to her, you've got to get back into the ice cream business. I'll do anything I can to help. And that effectively became their engagement ring. And they worked hard to get back to the public market. And the place gave them a second chance. They changed the name to Jeni's Splendid Ice Creams. They added another dipping cabinet because Jeni was an artist. She would create something new every day, and people would fall in love with it. Come back the next day and it wasn't there. She had created something new that day. And so the joke was, when they reopened as Jeni's, they got a second cabinet, so the stuff that really worked they could make more of and have it for customers to return to. So that was back in 98. I was a young lawyer. I had no dream or aspiration of working with or for them. I went off to GE. I was traveling too much, having a great experience, and then they called late one night in 2009. They had 4 stores. They had just started shipping their ice cream in old fishing coolers with dry ice, with the idea that people fell in love with it when they came to Columbus, and then they could follow the customers home and ship it to them. What they didn't appreciate at the time was that being able to ship the ice cream enabled the New York Times and Food and Wine to begin writing about what this amazing woman in Columbus, Ohio was doing with ice cream. And that began that cult following, and all of a sudden we were shipping to New York and San Francisco and tastemaker cities, the crazy things Jeni was doing with ice cream. So that was the very early days. I joined with the idea that we had a couple of shops that looked like they were working. We didn't have great financial information, but there were lines, and they were in an an urban and a suburban location. People loved it, and we thought we could go find more similar locations to get the business growing. And we didn't
Yeah.
know how big to dream at the time. We were, if we got to 10 or 12 shops, we could pay the mortgages and have a decent lifestyle business, but we all kind of wanted more and were hoping for more. And so we got to work and figured out how to work in retail and grow a team. And we've had a number of ups and downs, but it's been a tremendous ride. And we're now about 50 shops with big plans ahead.
Yeah, great. It's a great story, and those are the kind of stories we love to feature here on Fast Casual Nation. This reminds me of a concept very similar in terms of how you tracked out that's in Louisville, Kentucky, called Graders. Do you know that concept?
Grader's actually based in Cincinnati, but has franchises.
Big bases in Louisville.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've got stores there.
Graders kind of did a lot of this, I would say, a couple decades ago, kind of as they grew and started moving their shops and also their strategies toward getting food out, or excuse me, ice cream out. There seems to be a pathway for this business, and I'm kind of curious when you look at what you guys have done with the strategies, because in looking and researching your brand a bit, really understanding how the shops, which you have some great locations, which I thought was amazing real estate grabs. But what was the focus of the brand early on during its growth phase? Was it more on the direct to consumer, or were you still in the phase of building out more shops, or were you trying to manage both?
Yeah, a little of both. But the reality is we wanted to find cities where there was a creative class that would understand what we were trying to do. And when we first left Ohio, we went to Nashville. And I think that proved to be a wonderful place for us where everyone works in the music industry in some form. And they got us and what we were trying to do. And from there, we went to Atlanta and then DC. And we've been in Chicago. We've been able to find pockets of urban young professionals, urban creative class that get what we're about and have been great advocates for us along the way.
Yeah, very interesting. Okay, so let's talk about the dynamics of the brand concept itself. In looking, you guys have a very good e-commerce system on your website. You really go aggressive towards marketing direct to consumer. When all of this started happening last year in 2020 and we kind of had to reposition, a lot of concepts had to reposition, it seemed like you guys were already poised with your tech stack and some of the things you had already implemented that would enable you to really take advantage of it. Was that the case, or did you kind of double down on the direct-to-consumer product? How did you guys deal with this?
We were fortunate to be a three-legged stool before the pandemic. We had great success in grocery stores and with our own e-commerce business, and so we were better positioned than most. We had been playing with delivery and rolling out Olo through our stores. We got that in place just in time. I think we rolled it out on March 6th, and that proved to be a godsend for us when people were hunkered down, still wanted ice cream, still wanted Jeni's, but we were able to get it to them directly through our website. That helped us through very lean times in a way that many companies were not as fortunate to have in place.
Yeah. On delivery, the complexities of that, being able to deliver a product like ice cream, what's the process? How do you guys go about that?
We've got frozen bags that we stick them in, but frankly, the pints travel just fine, and so we're delivering pints and not scooped ice cream. We want to get to a place where we can deliver scooped ice cream. We think that's the single best way to enjoy our product, but it doesn't travel well yet, and we're working on it, but we don't have an answer. We haven't solved that one quite yet.
So the pints go into a frozen bag, the Uber driver or the different variations of third-party delivery comes in, they grab these, and it's just like any other product, has no real differentiation on delivery models for the third-party marketplaces.
That's right.
Okay.
It's as easy as anything, maybe easier than most. Yeah.
Yeah. When you look at the long-term strategy, because this is something that a lot of fast casuals are starting to work on. Um, I'll take one, like Kava, who has, really kind of grown in a variety of different ways. But one of their early strategies was, a product that went to groceries and specialty food stores. Is that a big area that you feel is a growth vertical for you? If you were to say, hey, out of these three-legged stools, which one of these do we think is really going to be kind of our cash cow? Do you feel like that's going to be a solid market for you, or do you feel like it's going to be more of the shops and the direct-to-consumer?
Yeah. First of all, I love Kava, and I love that team. Their leadership are wonderful people. They've done amazingly well, and it's been fun to watch. We were introduced by some people in the early days as the only two idiots who would try to do wholesale and retail at the same time. And we sort of said, but I think it's the right thing to do for each of us. And
Yeah.
a lot of people doubted us. I will say it's important to us that we grow all legs of the stool, and we are not strictly a fast casual concept. We are not strictly a pint company in grocery. And frankly, I want people to have a chance to come into our store and into our shops that are beautiful and clean, and the customer service is amazing, and fall in love with one, two, or three flavors, and then be able to buy those at the grocery store and enjoy them after a great meal at home. And that, and for us, then being able to gift our ice cream by ordering online and having it shipped to homes in our big orange boxes is, the full Jeni's experience. I think it's very important that we maintain all three of those.
Yeah. How does the fulfillment process work for your company? Because I know a lot of fast casuals now that are looking at trying to get into direct to consumer. Not each store is a distribution point. Do you have a centralized, like almost like a commissary or a shipping fulfillment center?
Yeah, we have two of our own distribution centers, one in Columbus, one in Nashville. We really had to build it ourselves. When we were starting, no one was shipping frozen. That's changed
Right.
slightly, but we like to keep our ice cream at -20, which is colder than the norm. We don't use stabilizers or emulsifiers, and so it's important that we keep it cold, colder than most. And so we built it ourselves, and we made major investments into very large freezers, and then the technology to pick and pack as efficiently as possible. It's still not
Right.
perfect, but it's doing it ourselves is still better than trying to find a partner to do it for us.
Yeah, I think that, well, yeah, because a lot of companies will go to, co-packers and people like that who have to then take your formula and try to make it work over here. And with something as artisanal as what you guys are doing, that might be a little bit tough. Speaking of the product, let's get into some of those, because you guys kind of go into some very unique flavors. And I guess the strategy to market, how do you guys go about product development? I know with what you've told me, it sounds like, Jeni is a very creative spirit, so you probably get a lot of very interesting things. Kind of talk to me about what you see in terms of trends around flavors and how consumers are responding to those.
I get asked all the time, like, what's the
What's the
process?
new hot ice? Yeah.
Right, and the answer is it's whatever Jeni wants, right? Like she's our LeBron James or Michael Jordan, and she's got an incredible palate, and she's right damn near all the time. And so when she's convinced that this is a flavor that people are going to love, we put it out.
Yeah.
Sometimes we have the opportunity to do it only in our scoop shops, and where it gets a big reaction, we can then push it out to wholesale. But
Yeah.
we don't. We think that we'll lose something if we try to decide what the market wants, if we try tasting panels and the like. And it's important
Right.
for us that we let her operate and decide what the flavors are and how we, what collections we bring out and the like. And, with it, she's had, there's one famous miss where she wanted to do a smoked banana. And if you know the great people at City Barbecue, they too are a Columbus based company that's doing wonderfully. And she reached out to Rick at City Barbecue and asked him to smoke some bananas for him. And it turns out, we now know, that smoked bananas taste a lot like turpentine and don't make for a great
Oh,
ice cream. But
interesting.
other than that one, she's been right for the 20 years I've known her. And so that's our creative process.
Yeah, I love to hear that because I think in many cases, especially in the upstart fast casual brands, this kind of is talking to the concepts out there listening to the show that are maybe under 20 units, is a lot of times I find founders who are the typical, like you kind of mentioned, the LeBron James of their business, and they kind of get off course, going with what what panels start to say or what, consumer focus groups start to say instead of their gut. So I love to see that you guys are kind of operating in that mode because I think you're right. I think a lot of times someone who's been doing it probably for as long as Jeni and really understands kind of the dynamics of the formulation process, but also the consumer palate, you can't really replace that. It's something that is just that magic that it just is. It's tough to get that pulled in. I see that. So that's great. Now, let's talk a little about kind of the strategy when you're building a team. So as you guys continue to grow, you have a very artisanal founder, very passionate. You seem to be more of the business side. When you combine those two efforts, usually that's a really good formula for success. How do you see Jeni's being able to replicate that when you get into, maybe going to 100 stores or beyond? How do you see that kind of coming together for your staff and your team and being able to translate that going forward?
Yeah, I think we've done a tremendous job. We have brought in just spectacular talent. The head of retail, chief retail officer for us is Dan Sears-Patowski, who ran 1,500 of the limited stores many years ago. He's forgotten more about operational retail than I'll ever know. We brought in Ami Matur, who was the GM of Honest Tea, and she's forgotten more about marketing and wholesale success than I'll ever know. And then a COO, CFO, who's as world class as they come. And it was important to us to build the team that we were going to grow into and not do it the reverse. And too many concepts, I think, fail because they get out a little ahead of their skis. And for us, It was about investing in the right talent and the right brains that could take us to the next level. And Jeni and I are a great yin and yang in that, in 11 years, I've never had an opinion about one ice cream. And at the same time, she probably hasn't looked at that many spreadsheets. But together we're great. And it's very important that we have a whole bunch of talent around us. And we built a team that has themselves hired great people. And so we're at 50. We'll add 20 this year. And we're on a march to, 100 million in revenue very quickly. That will be success, but will also be making sure we do the things that we were doing when we had 4 stores. Yeah. Providing great customer service, making sure every customer that comes in feels loved today, which is a saying we rallied around after Charlottesville, one of the low points in American history. And Jeni sort of said, our job is to make people feel loved today. And now it's the last thing our people see as they walk onto into the shop floor to serve customers.
Yeah, for sure. Well, it's good that you're going in that direction. I think that was one of the things I kind of pointed out in one of my predictions this year is that we would see pretty much a reformation of the C-suites in a lot of new brands or even existing brands, kind of stepping up the game, getting in talent that is very digital forward, mainly because of the shift that's happening. Obviously, you guys were a bit ahead of the game and already on that track. I want to talk to you about a couple of things that you're seeing when you guys are analyzing the market in terms of consumer trend and or fast casual trends. Let's kind of talk and maybe pinpoint on ghost kitchens and virtual brands. What are your thoughts on how some companies are going in those directions? Do you think it's something worthy? Where do you see this going?
Well, I'll start with, it's a great time to be a consumer, right? The things that you can have delivered to you at a moment's notice are amazing. And so,
Pretty cool.
in some ways, right, what a time to be alive. For us, we're going to take advantage of the opportunity, but also weigh it against not giving up the customer experience. And still, the most important thing to us is that you come into our scoop shop and get to enjoy. We have free sampling in non-COVID days. So you can go down and literally taste every ice cream and fall in love with one or two and get your cone. And we don't want to give that up. We do not want to just be a pint company that can get you a delivery of pints at a moment's notice. At the same time, it is a tremendous leap forward to be able to do that. And so we will play with ghost kitchens in our own way. We won't deliver scooped ice cream, but we will use them to serve the delivery of our pints.
Yeah. Well, I think you guys are hitting on all the things that I think many fast casual operators are trying to groom into their business, especially around the consumer connection. And with digital kind of jumping to the front of the line here in terms of strategies, a lot of operators that I talk with are really concerned that that is going to be a lost art. Because digital is there's some separation there. You don't necessarily get that consumer interaction as much as you might, and I kind of agree with that. It's a very different experience. And I eat Chipotle a lot. Mainly, they have a great digital product. I use it, but I feel like I'm much more detached from the brand. It's a very sterile experience. You walk in, you grab a bag, you leave. I mean, that could be a closet. It doesn't have to be a restaurant concept that's got a great, corner retail spot. So it's good that you guys are going in that direction and staying on point in that. Any last minute thoughts when you look at trying to coach up, and you've had the chance to do this personally, coach up founders that are just getting started and trying to move their business to the next level? Would you give maybe a tip to those guys and people who are out there?
Sure. I'll just say to your point on delivery and digital is here to stay. But the moment 80% of America is inoculated, we are all rushing back to restaurants and group settings. And I think, these are tough times for extroverts, right? Like we all want some human interaction. And those that are still around have survived so that they can provide great customer service down the road. The opportunities are enormous because the rent is cheaper and the rush to get back out will, I believe, be here for many years. As for founders, look, I've been fortunate to get to work with one of the all-time greats. It is as tough being a founder as any job or any thing one chooses to do because everything can go wrong, right? From making payroll to remembering to lock the door, to hiring the right people, et cetera. And I think the people who are most successful as founders are those that choose to know exactly what they are great at and focus on that, and then go find other people that do the other things that they don't want to do or don't have to do. And, I think we love helping small businesses, but almost always it's like, what are the 1, 2, or 3 things that you're really special at? Right. Do those. Find somebody else to make payroll or to do the things to negotiate the rent, et cetera, if that's not your specialty. So, I think being a founder is as difficult as any role in the world, maybe as rewarding, maybe as fun at times, but get great people around you and it'll be a lot easier.
Yeah. All right, so John, thank you so much again for stopping on the episode today. It's been great having you here on Fast Casual Nation, and I wish you guys the best of luck there at Jeni's.
Thank you so much for having us. Always great to talk about Team Jeni's.
All right, so you guys are listening in maybe over on the podcast players right now. Make sure and leave a great rating. That's how we get your feedback. And it's also how we kind of get some ideas for the show in terms of either guests or topics. If you do have one that you'd like to send to us, just shoot us an email to producer@foodabletv.com, or you can always hit me up on Twitter @Paul Barron. It's great to have you right here. Looking forward to a big 2021. Stay listening right here on Fast Casual Nation. We'll catch you next time.